Over 200 asylum seekers held in immigration detention centres staged hunger strikes in a 3-month period. The figures have prompted warnings from human rights campaigners who argue that those arriving in Britain are desperate, frustrated and helpless. Figures obtained by The Guardian through a Freedom of Information request reveal 218 people refused to eat throughout the summer. During that same period, there were over 100 suicide attempts, with more than 600 inmates on suicide watch. The Immigration Detention Centre near Gatwick Airport, Brook House, had the highest number of detainees on hunger strike and also had the highest number on suicide watch. Well, this is thought to be the first time data of this scale has been made public. And according to human rights campaigners, the strikers either wanted to die or were staging protests in response to the slow process of their immigration applications. When contacted, the Home Office responded, saying that every step is being taken to prevent incidents of this nature. Well, for more on all of this, I'm now joined by Jamie Kerr, who is a solicitor specialising in immigration and human rights law. Evening, Jamie.
Hi, Bill.
This sort of action, is it effective? Do the strikers achieve anything by going on hunger strike?
I think it's a very difficult situation, and I think what we need to bear in mind is that the people on hunger strike sometimes view themselves as having no other options available to them. I think one of the challenges at the heart of immigration detention is that there are no time limits on detention, and what we don't see from these particular figures are the length of time that those who are on hunger strike have been detained for.
So is there no effort then for the Home Office, despite no limit on time, to actually speed up these applications?
There was a parliamentary report recently which said that we should only use immigration detention as a very last resort and we should have a time limit on it. But the UK government have had no interest whatsoever in implementing that report or taking the concerns on board. And what that results in is very vulnerable people being detained, sometimes when there's no prospect of them being removed from the UK. And then we see people taking very desperate measures. And
that, of course, would surely put the Home Office in a bad light. I mean, finally, at last, this data was agreed to be released after an appeal against non-disclosure, which was made to the Information Commissioner. Do you suspect, are there suspicions that the government has actually been trying to cover this up?
I think the government fought very hard against this data being refused, because obviously it shines a very clear light on what's happening in immigration detention centres. Obviously, sometimes inaccessible centres where there are limited public insight. But I think what the figures do show is that the UK's approach to migrants in detention is inhumane. No time limits on detention, vulnerable people being detained, and I think overall the only conclusion that one can draw from this is that our immigration system, when it comes to detention, is broken.
Also, what about the conditions migrants are in or held in? You said earlier migrants, that what's happening to them is inhumane, but is that also a reference to the conditions within these centres?
I think different centres have different sets of conditions, but what we bear in mind is many of the centres are near airports. The migrants have no idea when they'll be removed, how much notice they will have. There may be limited access to legal support, to lawyers. But I think the key problem with the system is not the conditions within detention, it's not the food or that type of thing. It's primarily the fact that people there do not know how long they're going to be there for. And that cannot be right in a modern democratic society, that we can have what is effectively indefinite detention. That's wrong.
Jamie Kerr, thank you very much indeed for joining us live.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you.